The SEC throwing a fit over the college football playoff is not unintentional. This is all to ultimately create their own version of the playoff that excludes the Big 12. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. Let's talk about how the SEC and ESPN are ultimately killing college football as we know it, and they want to get rid of the Big 12, the ACC, and others. The SEC having a conniption over the college football playoff is not some mistake. It's not some one-off. It's not them just throwing a fit. This is all completely intentional. You understand the SEC is a property of ESPN. And while the MLB and NBA are losing money hand over fist for them, the SEC is the one place they see dollar signs. And with that being the case, the national pundits are going to control the narrative that furthers the SEC and kills everybody else until at the end of the day, there is some sort of result. This isn't just a happenstance or a chance thing. There's a thesis here. There's a scientific method, hypothesis being if we can have national media control the narrative, can we create a product that is ultimately profitable for those who are in executive positions? And the way to do that is to make the SEC such a machine via ESPN, On3, Rivals, and the dollars that are put in those people's pockets to build an SEC-only playoff. Plus Ohio State, plus Oregon, plus Michigan. And outside of that, everybody else goes away. To me, I think the number one point to make here in this conversation is you cannot monopolize something that was created out of chaos. You cannot monopolize something that was created out of pure and utter creativity. But that is where we are headed because four letters have complete control of one product. And it's the only profitable product that that network has. I am sitting in my childhood bedroom, home for the holidays, visiting family. And I'm going to take a couple days off. Old workaholic, huh? And then I can't get over the reaction from Paul Finebaum to Lane Kiffin to Kirk Herbstreit from this weekend. A direct quote from Herbstreit saying, I'm tired of hearing about wins. I'm tired of hearing how many wins you have. That's how you're going to justify your opinions on the college football playoff is by saying, I'm tired of knowing who wins games. I'm tired of not hearing about the losses. Alabama to Oklahoma or Vanderbilt, Ole Miss to Kentucky. I've got two weird nutcrackers sitting behind me. My junior high football sign on the wall, right? The last thing I want to do is spew about how the SEC is overtaking the sport that I love, but it's what's happening right in front of our eyes. And I do believe you see it. I see it. 6 months ago, it was propaganda. 6 months ago, it was there's no way that these rogue media members talking about the SEC breaking off and doing their own thing outside the NCAA have any legitimacy. There's no way the SEC would actually create a super conference or try to break off, create their own playoff, and loop the Big Ten or some teams in. There's no way that Mississippi State gets kicked out, Arkansas and Vanderbilt kicked to the curb, and they recreate those two conferences, but with more power, more money. And now I hope you know today, as of December 23rd, that's exactly what we're staring down the barrel of. And all those so-called pundits who are stirring stuff up for clicks and views were right. Tim Brando says, by the way, Tim Brando, who's had a long career in sports media, it's still calling games for Fox. The propaganda machine hard at work, and it appears they're attempting to make it official, the SEC Big Ten Invitational. That's where we're heading. That's a guy with a whole lot of experience in college football saying where we're heading is the SEC and Big Ten Invitational. And I can guarantee you he wouldn't want to spew something right now where he is in his career that would get him fired by Fox. If he's going to give an opinion, he's got to really believe it. And that's the case here. Programs like Boise State and Arizona State, he says, need not apply. It'll be interesting watching how the Fiesta and Peach are presented because the agenda is clear. Let the brand dogs eat. All you have to do is watch the rights holders work. Bingo. Spot on. And then my response to that is, why don't we eat the rich? right? Why are we sitting here and just going, oh, yeah, whatever, Paul Finebaum spew. And the only response he gets is a couple people on Twitter who he's not even going to give the time of day. Kirk Herbstreit goes spew. Tell us how the wins don't matter. This was a really good note that was tweeted out by an account, Genetics56, in response to Herbstreit saying that wins don't matter and fringe fans are blaming the playoff selection of the playoff system. And we're just these fringe fans who have got it all wrong. That's Herbstreit's rhetoric right now, which I think is false, and as does Genetics56, who weird handle, but awesome take. It is ESPN-controlled propaganda and narratives. They want their own SEC playoff and diminish all programs not in the SEC. They tried to do it to Ohio State over the last few days. The mere fact ESPN is directing their employees to say these things is troubling and destructive. And don't get it twisted. The SEC, their schools, athletic directors, and SEC HQ employees and leaders are actively involved in these directive orders because they agree with it. Greg Sankey needs to be removed from authoritative influence that impacts the rest of D1 athletics. Money. Money is the root of all evil, and money is what's killing college football because the SEC now wants to take it and monopolize to the point where they have their own playoff system. Can I propose something in college football? What if we had, I don't know, these like quasi-regional pods, we'll call it, of teams, and say it's 12, 14, even 16, I don't know, crazy number, just random number to throw out. And they play each other, not a round robin, but most of the teams play most of the teams in the span of a year, maybe 8 or 9 times. You get a couple games outside of your pod just to warm you up for those pod games. And then at the end of all that, we decide, hey, based on how you did in your pod, that's what we're going to rank you. And you get out of your pod if you're one of the better teams in that. But shoot, we're already doing the SEC playoff. It's called the regular season, where you play 9 of those games. 8 of those in the SEC. They don't want to play an extra conference game, and they're not penalized for it. They still get the best strength of schedule in the country. Why? Because that little computer had a fun number beside it in week 1. And now that team that had the fun number beside it is 6-6. But you still benefit that fun number that was there and shouldn't have been there. That is what it is. A regular season tournament that Kirk Herbstreit is paid to tell you did not matter. That these ESPN voices are paid to tell you, hey, regular season, I don't know. Hypothetically, Indiana would get boat raced. Hypothetically, SMU would get boat raced by Alabama. Then we see Tennessee come out in a real-life college football game, get pummeled by Ohio State, who is dealing with injuries. Ohio State has already had guys transfer out. Ohio State, who was by many national analysts not picked to win this game because of how many Tennessee fans were there and the momentum of the Tennessee Volunteers. And Ohio State just lost to Michigan, who's putrid. Silence. Nothing from Kiffin, nothing from Finebaum. And still, Kirk Herbstreit, who understands that if he doesn't say this, he doesn't get paid, comes to the table. And Kirk Herbstreit says, Indiana didn't deserve to be here. I'm tired of hearing about wins. This should be completely done different. And while I do agree there should be changes to the college football playoff, it's not to let more SEC teams in. Everything I turn on, I'm going to talk continually about how ESPN is taking yet another product, as they have the MLB, as they have the NFL, not the NFL, the MLB and NBA, but not the NFL because the other networks harbor that. They've taken another product and they have spat all over it and completely ruined the spirit of it. If you monopolize something built off of chaos, something built off of parity, something built off of a much wider whole, you kill it. That's where we're heading with the SEC creating its own playoff. And that's where they're going to go. They won't be happy until it's just them. Eat the rich. This has been It Always Will Be. Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day, and a Merry Christmas. Dose Grande.